Yo, what is up guys? It's Pedro here, and in today's video I will be talking about the possibility of the Washington Commanders and Landon Collins having some mutual interest on a potential return to DC. I'll talk about how much money it would take to bring back Landon Collins if I think it would be a good move for the Washington Commanders, and I'll talk about what Landon Collins would add to this defense. So if you guys are new, make sure to subscribe for Washington and NFL content. We're so close to 7,500 subscribers, so please help me get there. Also hit that like button and turn on those notifications so you never miss a video, and also go ahead and follow the Twitter. Link is in the description. Now let's get right into the video. Also guys, comment down below if you want the Washington Commanders to re-sign Landon Collins. So it was always a possibility that, Landon Collins could come back to the Washington Commanders after the draft, because if they didn't, because they do have a hole at that Buffalo nickel position, and they, have a hole at a linebacker position, and they didn't really address that in the draft. Like, maybe Percy Butler could play the Buffalo nickel position, but I think they view him as a free safety, and there's some other players that they got in the draft that, and some undrafted free agents that could play linebacker, but they didn't draft a linebacker in this year's draft. They signed a couple undrafted free agents, and that Buffalo nickel position wasn't addressed too much. And Landon Collins last year in the second half of the season was kind of playing a hybrid between linebacker and safety, sometimes playing Buffalo nickel, sometimes just playing will linebacker. So, he definitely was a huge help to the Commanders in the second half of last season. And this is from Chad Ryan, who covers the team, says there's a little bit of noise around a potential Landon Collins return. There's some interest from both sides apparently, and this was on May 1st. And then also, let me pull up the tweet. So this is Landon Collins shared this on his IG story. So I think a fan was saying something about please come back. Hail to the Commanders, you need to be a skin for life. And then, Landon Collins reposted this on his Instagram story, so clearly some interest there. I think John Keim also, before the draft started, mentioned the possibility of, he mentioned that the Washington Commanders would like to possibly bring Landon Collins back after the draft. It was just a matter of, would Landon Collins be willing to come back for a discounted price, because it's going to be weird, Landon Collins going from getting paid like $16 million a year on the same team to being, to going to like $2, $3, $4 million. Like, that's going to be weird in the same locker room. So maybe he's going to want to go to another team where he didn't go from one of the highest paid players to the team to one of the lowest paid. So that is something definitely to keep in mind. But it looks like there is some mutual interest. They just have to, get the contract done. We'll see if Washington is still interested in Landon Collins, but I think they would be, because, like I said, John Keim said they were before the draft, and they didn't really do anything to address the position during the draft and so far after the draft. So I think bringing back Landon Collins would still be something that is appealing to them. You look at Landon Collins, last year at safety, like just playing safety the first half of the year, he was awful. Like, just awful. Always blowing coverages, not the best tackler last year in the first half of the season. But then he kind of switched that linebacker role, between linebacker and safety, like a hybrid, and he played a lot better. Like, he is actually solid in coverage when it's short to intermediate passing game. Like, he is good from like 0 to 10 yards, line of scrimmage to 10 yards. But after that, when it's, past 10 yards, it's a problem. It's a problem if you have Landon Collins in coverage, on a go route or anything, more than 12, 13 yards, more than like 1 or 2 times a game. That is an issue, and we saw it countless times where he would get burnt, or for a touchdown, like in that Saints game there was one time, and Chiefs game, I think Travis Kelce, even burned him. So there's like, in the first half of the season, like, he definitely did not play well, and he was the main reason our defense was not playing well. And him playing safety also forced Cameron Curl to play free safety, and also forced Cameron Curl to not play a ton in the first half of the year. But then they switched him again to that Buffalo nickel / hybrid linebacker safety position. Sometimes he even played linebacker, like he was a will linebacker. He played a lot better. You look at his stats: 76 total tackles, 3 sacks, 2 interceptions. Not sure how many, if he had any forced fumbles, but he definitely played a lot better in the, yeah, had 1 forced fumble. The sacks are a little bit misleading because he got 2 sacks, I believe, in the Cowboys game where Dak Prescott ran out of bounds, and those got counted as sacks. But, he still played pretty well in the second half of the season. He did not play amazing. Like, there was still some flaws in his game. Like, there was still some things where, he wasn't playing great at. But he definitely was much better than he was the first half, and he was solid. Like, he was a solid football player, and we don't have any linebackers. Right? I mean, Cole Holcomb is good, and we'll see about Jamin Davis. But that's it. Besides that, we really don't have anyone else at the linebacker position. And even if he wanted to play Buffalo nickel as well, covering those bigger receivers or tight ends, that would be good as well. We just, if Washington's bringing him back, you just don't want him to be playing safety. That's it. And I do not think that he would be coming back as a safety. I think it would be as a linebacker or Buffalo nickel. One of those two, are a hybrid between linebacker and safety. He's not going to come back here and play safety because it was a disaster, really. I mean, especially the first half of this year, 2019 and 2020. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't good, though. It definitely wasn't good. It definitely wasn't $16 million a year worth, but definitely the first half of this year, it was not good. And one stat that I saw that showed how important he was, or having a guy like him, so maybe if you drafted Kyle Hamilton, this would be the case, or another one of these safeties. Washington safeties, I'll read this tweet right here from Ryan. Washington safeties Landon Collins, Bob McCain, and Cameron Curl shared the field for 34.5 snaps per game. When all were active, when on the field together, Washington held opponents to negative 5.8 EPA on offense. That's stat. And when any of them was on off the field, opponents racked up 28.3 EPA. So EPA is like an efficiency stat. So it just shows that with those 3 players in the field, they were much better than they were with even one of them off the field. That just shows the importance of having 3. They played a lot better with those 3 players on the field. And it doesn't have to be Landon Collins, but if you get someone similar to that, then that would be a good idea. And it just shows, like, behind, Cole Holcomb and Landon Collins last year, like, the other linebackers, Jamin Davis did not play well, but he was playing out of position. David Mayo is a backup at best. Khaleke Hudson, was hurt for a while, and he's kind of a backup. So they don't really have any linebackers. So that's kind of why they had to, only play with like 2 linebackers a lot of the time. Have a Buffalo nickel is because they don't have the personnel. They don't have good linebackers. So that's why I would not mind bringing back Landon Collins on a cheap deal. I do not think it would be that much. I think it would be probably around $2 to $5 million. I know that's kind of a big range, but somewhere in that range. I don't think it'll be too much. Washington will be able to get him for pretty cheap, and they'll still get that cap hit or cap savings for him on June 1st, around like 12 or 13, or I think it's like $12 million. So huge cap savings for the Washington Commanders, and they might bring him back for very cheap, and that would be a very good move by them, moving on from him, saving like $12 million in cap space, but then bring him back for like $2 or $3 million. That would be a great move, and it kind of fills a hole you need at that if you want him to play Buffalo nickel, or that hybrid role between linebacker and safety, where he can cover a little bit more than some of the other linebackers, but not as much as some safeties, because you do not want him covering these receivers. Tight ends, that's fine, and I guess some bigger receivers, but you do not want him to cover really any of the shifty, smaller receivers or even normal size receivers, because he can't keep up with them. He's not great in coverage after 10 yards, after that first down marker, but from 0 to 10 yards, he is pretty solid, and he showed that in the second half of last year. So I think it definitely is a possibility. It just is going to come down to, will Landon Collins take another pay cut? Will he be willing to come back? Like, he's going to have to swallow his pride a little bit. I don't know if he is that kind of guy. We will see, and I think he's gotten a little bit of a reality check, because I think 2 things. 1, he's not getting the money he thought he would from other teams around the league. And 2, I think he wants to play safety, but I don't think a lot of the teams around the league think or want him to play safety. So I think he's kind of getting a reality check, saying, hey, I'm going to probably have to take a 1-year deal pretty cheap, and I'm probably going to have to play linebacker or a hybrid between the two. And why not just go back to the place where I played pretty well the second half of the year last year. And if I play well this year, I can get a big deal afterwards. And I think that maybe he's thinking that way after getting a little bit of a reality check. So let me know what you guys think about Landon Collins. Would you bring him back? How much would you pay him? And yeah, so thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe if you guys are new, and turn on those notifications so you never miss a video. But if we bring back Landon Collins, I think that'll be a huge boost to this defense. And you see these stats right here with him on the field and with him off the field. So yeah, peace guys.